In a distant country house, where I spent my summer holidays as a child, something terrible happened. The house was old and mysterious, with an unusual atmosphere that always made me uneasy. But nothing could have prepared me for what would happen one ominous evening. One day, when the whole house was already plunged into gloomy silence, I was lying in my bed trying to fall asleep. Suddenly, a strange screeching sound came from under the bed. I listened and realized that the sound was coming from the basement. My heart started beating faster, and I felt as if someone or something was down there. Boldly gathering my courage, I decided to check what was going on. Taking a flashlight, I slowly descended the ancient wooden stairs to the basement. As I got closer to the door where the sound was coming from, the atmosphere became more and more frightening, but my curiosity was stronger than my fear. When I opened the door, I found that everything was in perfect order in the basement. No traces of a living soul or sudden sounds. I was already beginning to think that all this was just my fantasy, when suddenly I heard a crunching step behind me. I turned around and saw a strange creature. It was a brownie. He was tall, thin, with round eyes that glowed in the dark. His skin was pale, and his hair was gray and tangled. The creature did not have an obviously friendly appearance, and I felt an icy grip of horror. The brownie stepped closer to me, emitting strange hissing sounds. My body froze with fear. I couldn't take my eyes off his eyes, which seemed full of sinister wisdom. I didn't know what to do. My first thought was to run, but as soon as I made a move to the door, the brownie quickly approached me, blocking my path. I realized that I couldn't just walk away from him. The creature began to make strange and frightening noises that pierced my ears, and I felt that my strength was leaving my body. Various stories about brownies flashed through my mind. They were known for their whims and cunning. I realized that I was in a death trap. The creature came even closer, its eyes blazing with hatred and malice. Suddenly, several more brownies appeared out of the darkness. They surrounded me, leaving an escape route impossible. I was completely panicked, trying to find a way out of this nightmarish situation. Then, as if by a miracle, the sound of a car engine was heard. The brownies froze in place, their eyes turned towards the sound. It was my savior, my father, who came home suddenly. He entered the basement and stopped, looking at the scene in front of him in surprise. Father didn't know what was going on, but his presence destroyed their sinister power. The brownies disappeared, as if they had disappeared into thin air, and everything around them returned to normal. I felt my strength returning to me, and my breathing became even. I thanked my father for saving me from an unknown and frightening creature. Together we left the basement, locking its doors so that we would never encounter brownies again. I have never returned to that old country house since. This terrible experience with brownies left a deep mark on my memory. I carefully avoided any places where it would be possible to encounter brownies or other supernatural beings. My fear of them became overwhelming, and I avoided even mentioning them. However, from time to time, visions of brownies appeared in my dreams, which reminded me of a terrible meeting in that old country house. They continued to haunt me in my nightmares, causing anxiety and insomnia. To get rid of this obsessive fear, I decided to look into the history of brownies and find a way to protect myself from them. My research led me to various legends and legends related to these creatures. According to some legends, brownies can be protected by certain amulets. To try this approach and turn to a connoisseur of mysticism and magic. He helped me create amulets designed to scare away brownies and other unwanted creatures. I carried these amulets with me, confident in their protective power. This helped me gradually cope with fear and enjoy life again without the constant feeling of threat. Now that several years have passed, I look back at that terrible experience with brownies as a lesson. He taught me to be more careful and prepared for unusual situations. I am no longer afraid of mysterious and supernatural beings, but I always remain vigilant and circumspect. My experience with brownies reminds me that there is much more in the world than we can see or explain. He reminds me that we must be prepared for unpredictable circumstances and respect the mysterious and unexplored aspects of the world in which we live.